Okay, let's dive right into this explainer of the absolute highest potential content strategy projected for 2026. Today, we're breaking down a meticulously crafted blueprint for audience retention, and it's built around this intense, literally impossible mechanic, a shrinking Minecraft world. If you've ever wondered how digital creators engineer these massive viral spectacles that keep millions glued to their screens, well, you're in the right place. We're going to unpack exactly how manipulating something as basic as player scale can completely hack viewer attention, turning a cozy sandbox game into an absolutely relentless fight for survival.
The bold opening hook for this whole strategy, it relies on immediate, extreme personal stakes. The premise is super simple, but honestly terrifying: Minecraft, but I shrink every minute. It thrusts you, the viewer, immediately into a ticking clock scenario. Right now, the player is normal-sized, but in exactly 60 seconds, they're going to get smaller. Imagine gazing up at a towering cow hoof. It instantly communicates the sheer, ridiculous scale of the problem. In just 5 minutes, they're going to be smaller than a single pixel. And if they don't beat the Ender Dragon before they literally vanish from existence, they lose everything. It's not just a challenge, it's a full-on existential countdown. So the crucial concept driving this entire blueprint is something called progressive weirdness. Now, this isn't just about making things hard. It's a highly calculated retention mechanic. Progressive weirdness forces the player, and obviously the viewer too, to adapt to an increasingly impossible and bizarre environment over time. It basically creates an impossible-to-look-away spectacle, because it escalates the absurdity every single 60 seconds. Every minute, the world gets bigger, the mobs get deadlier, and the fundamental rules of the game are just completely flipped upside down. It guarantees you can't afford to click away, because the reality of the game is fundamentally shifting minute by minute.
And the fast-paced, stressful narrative arc of this 5-minute script is perfectly mapped out across 5 distinct twists, each tied to a shrinking phase. We go from a massive forest wall in minute 1 to a terrifying Godzilla chicken in minute 2, a deadly puddle in minute 3, an uncraftable table in minute 4, all the way to defeating a literal god in minute 5. It's an absolute masterclass in pacing, designed so there's never a dull moment or a plateau in the action. Let's actually zoom in on minute 1 and see exactly how this tension builds from the very first second.
Okay, minute 1 hits. The first shrink happens, and suddenly, a standard forest is an absolute nightmare. The player desperately needs wood, right? But they can't even reach the first log. With legs the size of toothpicks, the player's basic reality just breaks instantly. A standard everyday 1x1 dirt block turns into this massive, insurmountable skyscraper wall. Everything takes 10 times longer now, and you have to frantically, literally parkour up a simple patch of dirt just to begin basic survival tasks before that next shrink hits. The scale of mundane objects is suddenly awe-inspiring and, frankly, a little terrifying.
Moving into minute 2, the progressive weirdness ramps up hilariously, but also kind of terrifyingly. A regular farm bird transforms into what is perfectly described as a Godzilla chicken. Now, to a normal player, a chicken is completely harmless, right? You wouldn't even think twice about walking past one. But to our shrinking protagonist, it's a towering, feathered boss with glowing red eyes casting a massive shadow over the landscape. The stakes are crystal clear here. One peck from this giant bird, and your history. A basic food source has instantly become an apex predator.
Think about your own viewing habits for a second. Why do we actually click on this kind of content? It's because the sheer absurdity of the situation is just incredibly engaging. The player is now so small that regular grass blocks completely block their line of sight. They can hear village bells nearby, but they are literally lost in a jungle of dandelions. It's wild. The sheer creativity of needing to craft a ladder just to see over normal grass is exactly what keeps the viewer hooked. You aren't just watching a standard speedrun, you are watching a complete reimagining of spatial awareness, eagerly waiting to see how they're going to survive the next minute.
By minute 3, the stakes get even higher as the physics completely break down. The player is now the size of a button. They try to cross a simple, small stream, but at this microscopic scale, it's turned into a raging Atlantic Ocean. The water mechanics that we all just take for granted are suddenly lethal. A tiny splash is now a massive tidal wave, and a shallow creek is this deep, dark abyss. That visual shift from terrestrial survival to a full-on nautical nightmare really keeps the adrenaline pumping.
To put this into perspective, think about the number 50. 50 blocks. That represents the new, terrifying reality of this puddle. The water's surface is now a distant, shimmering light 50 blocks straight up. Every single giant bubble in this deep blue abyss is a deadly trap that could spell the end. This adds intense, suffocating pressure to our rapidly shrinking survival run. They're losing air fast, and if they don't find a way out of this puddle, the run ends right here. It's just a perfect escalation of stakes, using a basic game mechanic, the breath meter, and warping it to fit this whole macro-scale nightmare. In minute 4, the problem-solving reaches whole new architectural heights. The player has somehow made it to the stronghold, but there's a massive problem. They're so small, approaching the size of an atom with only 10 seconds until the next shrink, that they literally can't even reach the GUI, the graphical user interface, of the crafting table. To make their Eyes of Ender, they have to physically construct a massive staircase out of buttons just to reach the top of this room-sized table. It brilliantly turns a boring, everyday menu interaction into an epic challenge, forcing you to build infrastructure just to use a basic crafting tool.
We are really ramping up to a frantic pace now. The player finds the portal room, but it's the size of the Grand Canyon. Those normally tiny silverfish? Yeah, they're now the size of dragons, aggressively swarming the space. The player is jumping across massive, glowing lava blocks that look like an active mountain range, all while dodging bites larger than their entire body. Every jump requires perfect timing, every movement is life or death, and as they finally activate the portal, it's officially time for the smallest boss fight in history.
Finally, we reach the climax. Our microscopic hero is in the end, but they are so unfathomably small that they can't even see the dragon's head. The Ender Dragon looks like a moving continent circling a massive obsidian pillar. The end crystals are miles up in the sky, requiring the last of their Ender Pearls just to reach them. And in a final stroke of genius for this spectacle, the player is so tiny that when the dragon dives, their only chance to win is to try and fly directly inside the dragon's hitbox. I mean, it's the ultimate David versus Goliath scenario pushed to absolute digital extremes.
Section 1. Strategies for Maximum Growth, the Anatomy of a Viral Spectacle.
Okay, let's step back from the adrenaline-pumping gameplay for a second and put on our growth strategists' hats, because we need to unpack exactly why this blueprint is a masterclass in audience retention. To guarantee this hits those projected 2026 click-through rate trends, the strategist recommends a highly specific formula. First, you combine these stressful, spectacle-driven visuals, like those giant mobs, with personal stakes that are incredibly easy for a massive audience to track. But beyond the gameplay, you absolutely need strong packaging. The strategy dictates using recurring character visuals, like generating a consistent, recognizable avatar in that David Invest style to build brand recognition and trust across the series. You pair this with high-contrast, split-screen thumbnails and bold text chips promising the impossible or stating they're only 1 pixel. This creates the ultimate curiosity gap, essentially forcing the viewer to click just to see if the bold visual claim is actually true, setting up a psychological loop that pays off the exact moment the video starts.
This entire blueprint brilliantly shows how manipulating scale creates unbelievable drama. By breaking the fundamental rules of a familiar world, creators can manufacture relentless, engaging tension right out of thin air. Which leaves us with a fascinating question to ponder. Once we've successfully conquered the microscopic pixel and pushed this format to its absolute limit, what new, bizarre extremes will content creators invent to keep us watching next?